this moment in hockey history, the Nashville Predators currently found themselves in 4th place in the Central Division after 60 games skated. Only 22 games left on the season. 33-25-2 is the Nashville Predators record. They have 68 points on home ice, which is where the Nashville Predators' next game will take place. They have a record of 15-15-0. 18 wins on the road is tied for the most in division with the Dallas Stars. The rest of the road record is 18-10-2. The Preds have scored 188 goals in the season. They've given up 188 goals in the season. That means they have a goal differential of even. The Nashville Predators' next opponent is the Minnesota Wild, so they're also in the Central Division. So let's give you the updated Central Division standings, and we'll focus down on the Minnesota Wild and the Nashville Predators matchup. We also need to get you the wild card standings update because we do have some interesting developments in the wild card situation. The Winnipeg Jets are now in first place. The 3-team weave will continue throughout the rest of the season. I've told you this many, many times. I'll continue using that phrasing as we go because it is the most honest assessment of what's happening at the top of the Central Division now. The Dallas Stars have been in first for a couple of days. Now the Winnipeg Jets are in first place. The Colorado Avalanche are only 2 points behind first place. So it's going to continue. They're going to keep doing that thing. So Winnipeg in first at 79 points. Dallas in second at 79 points. The Colorado Avalanche in third place at 77 points. So first to third separated by 2 points. Then you'll find the wild card pack as we're starting to label it. The Nashville Predators are right there at 68 points. The St. Louis Blues have fallen 6 points now behind the Nashville Predators. Minnesota Wild also 6 points behind the Nashville Predators in sixth place. Then we'll find the 2 teams that are now out of it. The Arizona Coyotes season, well, it has actually fallen completely off of a cliff, just like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. They are now at 51 points still, and the losing just goes on and on and on. It's just the worst possible month of February for the Arizona Coyotes. Blackhawks in last place in the Central Division at 35 points. Now, the wild card update, the LA Kings still wild card 1, 68 points, but the Nashville Predators are tied in points. They occupy wild card 2 due to tiebreakers, but the Nashville Predators at 68 points, the same as the LA Kings. That's wild card 1 and 2. On the outside looking in, the Calgary Flames are now the first team on the outside looking in, jumping over the St. Louis Blues. Calgary's at 63 points. St. Louis is at 62. Looks realistically like we have about a 6-team pool going for the wild card right now, and Calgary is jumping right back in it. For a while, Pacific Division teams were really pushing in the wild card race, and then the Central Division kind of rebounded and started pushing in the race. It's going to continue moving back and forth like that throughout the season. Now, listen, I mentioned the Minnesota Wild once or twice. Let's talk about them for a moment. After 59 games skated, they are 28-25-6. They're 62 points, is 6 points behind the Nashville Predators in sixth place in the Central Division. On the road, the Minnesota Wild are 14-13-2. They've scored 188 goals in the season, the same exact number as Nashville Predators. They've given up 196, though. They have a goal differential of -8. For the Minnesota Wild, in their most recent stretch of 5, go back to February 19th, it was a 10-7 win versus the Vancouver Canucks. That game was absolutely wild, absolutely just insane. Yes, wild, I get it. 219, 10-7 win versus Vancouver. The next night on the 20th, a 6-3 loss at the Winnipeg Jets. On the 23rd of February, a 4-2 win at the Edmonton Oilers. On the 24th of February, 5-2 win at the Seattle Kraken. On the 27th of February, the most recent game, a 3-2 loss versus the Carolina Hurricanes. Now, for the Nashville Predators, this is the third of 4 regular season meetings between these two teams. They met all the way back on November the 30th, the first time, and the Nashville Predators would really like to forget this one, but I'm going to remind everyone of this and hope that it seeps into the Nashville Predators consciousness, because they need to remember that they got absolutely blown out on home ice back on November the 30th, 6-1 in favor of the Minnesota Wild. It was Saros getting pulled early in that one, 11-15. He takes the loss. Lankinen came into relief, went 14 out of 16. Parsonen scored the only goal for the Nashville Predators. That's not possible to happen in this game. Gustafsson, 26 out of 27 for the win for Minnesota, and Dewar just torched the Preds in that game. 3 goals and 1 assist for 4 total points. Now, these two teams would meet again in January on the 25th. This would be the first time the Preds would be in Minnesota this season. Saros would go 22 out of 24 and get the victory. Forsberg, Kariusi picked up the goals for the Predators. Gustafsson and net again for Minnesota, 26 out of 29. Takes the loss this time. Eriksson, Ek, and Boldy score the goals for Minnesota. These two teams will meet a 4th time this season, being Central Division rivals. That will take place on March 10th when the Preds will be in Minnesota for the 2nd and final time this year. So far, the regular season series for the Nashville Predators, 1-1. Preds picked up 2 out of 4 points, but they have been outscored 8-4 against the Minnesota Wild, one game at each building. Now for the Preds, once they wrap up this game against Minnesota, the homestand continues. Saturday versus Colorado, Tuesday versus Montreal, Thursday versus Buffalo is how the next week of the schedule shapes up for the Nashville Predators, back on the road after the 5-game homestand. First game of the road trip on the 9th of March in Columbus, and then on the 10th of March in Minnesota. That will be the final regular season meeting between the Nashville Predators and Minnesota Wild, happening on March the 10th. Now, let's get into this particular matchup. Let's talk about the NHL rankings and the numbers and the stats for both of these teams, then the individual stats of the goaltending matchup. Goals for Minnesota, 3.14 is 15th in the NHL, while the Predators 3.10 is 17th in the National Hockey League. In the goals against category, Minnesota giving up 3.29 per game is 22nd overall. The Nashville Predators giving up 3.13 per game, that is 17th overall. In the shots for category, Nashville Predators 13th in the league, 31.1 per game on net. Minnesota 30.1 on net per game, 21st in the league. In the shots against category, Minnesota's 20th overall in the NHL, 30.4 on net per game. In the shots against category, the Nashville Predators are giving up 30.3 per game, that is 19th. Very close in a lot of these different metrics right here. When it comes to the special teams, it is the Minnesota Wild with the much better power play. 22.2% is their conversion rate, 13th overall in the league, 46 out of 207 opportunities. The Nashville Predators' 18.8% conversion rate is 21st in the league, 39 out of 208 opportunities. When it comes to the penalty kill, the Nashville Predators are ahead in this statistical metric. 75.5% is their kill rate, 27th overall in the league, 46 power play goals against. That's a pretty big number, but not as big as 51 power play goals against. That's how many Minnesota have given up. They have a kill rate of 74.6%. They are 29th overall in the NHL. When it comes to every team in the NHL, high-skilled individuals all across the rosters. So we like to talk about the top 5 scorers for each team. Let's talk about the visiting Minnesota Wild. Kaprizov always does good against the Nashville Predators. His 26 goals and 37 assists for 63 points leads the Minnesota Wild. Eriksson Ek also already mentioned him as scoring against the Predators this season. 28 goals on the season. Impressive season. 26 assists for 54 points. Matt Zuccarello, 11 and 39 for 50. Usually does quite well against the Nashville Predators. Boldy's got a goal against the Preds this year, 23 goals overall in the season, 24 assists, 47 points, and Faber, 4 and 34. On the Nashville Predators side of things, some movement in the numbers here. Philip Forsberg still leads the team with goals, 28, assists 32, points 60. Roman Josi, though, is hot on the heels of the Philip Forsberg skates, 14 and 43, 457. O'Reilly, 20 goals, 29 assists for 49 points. Gus Nyquist, 16 goals and 33 assists for 49 points, now tying O'Reilly at third on the team. And Tommy Novak, 5th on the team, scoring 12 goals, 20 assists for 32 points. Gustafsson 101 against the Nashville Predators this season, 16, 14, and 3 on the season, 8.96 save percentage, 3.23 goals against average. UC Saros 1-1 against the Minnesota Wild this season, a overall season record of 24, 21 and 2, and 9.05 save percentage, 2.91 goals against average with 2 shutouts on the year. It's another important game for the Nashville Predators. The Minnesota Wild are still hovering close enough in this wild card race to be very effective down the stretch. So these points are of critical importance to the Nashville Predators on home ice. They've got the record back to 500. Need to continue trending that upwards in a good direction. Winners of 6 in a row. The Nashville Predators look to keep rolling on here against the Minnesota Wild before another huge Central Division matchup on Saturday versus the Colorado Avalanche. For the Nashville Predators, take care of business. Last time Minnesota came to Bridgestone Arena, a 6-1 drubbing. That cannot happen again. The Nashville Predators need to have a much better effort than they did the last time they played the Minnesota Wild here in Nashville. That's got you all set up for the Preds and the Wild on Thursday night. We've got the Rebirth Sports full game recap. We got to go back to the first game of the homestand. It was against the Ottawa Senators. We'll get to it right after this break, right here on the Renegades of Puck Podcast.